Greetings, folks. Welcome back to the Jason Damico Show. Thanks for listening on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, iHeart, Simplecast, and all of your other platforms. And we got a very special guest on the show today. We've been kind of Instagram pen pals, so to speak. This guy's resume is quite an accomplishment. Been in the business for a ridiculous amount of time. Record producer, recording engineer, mixer, composer, and film, working for network television, professional drummer, talk show host, and actor. He's worked with Grammy winners, nominees, Billboard winners, and a whole bunch of cool stuff here. And we're going to get more into details in a second, but please welcome to the show, Mr. Dino Maddalone. Good to see you.
The crowd goes mild. Go ahead.
How's it out there over in LA?
Well, it's wacky. You know, fortunately, I live by the beach, so during the day is kind of normal, and then nighttime it's a little wacky. But LA's a little bit lighter in the vibe,
Right.
on what's going on. So usually during the day it's pretty cool.
Well, cool. I've been following you for a little bit and really enjoyed some of the content, seen a few of your interviews before, and I thought you'd be a really good addition to the show. Would love to start with your beginning stages. I know that you've got a lot of hats that you wear, and I'm assuming it started with drums for you earlier on, but would love to hear just a few minutes on your story and how you got into the industry.
I mean, when did I start? I'm not hearing you too great, but when did I start playing drums? Is that what you're saying? When did I start?
Yeah, and how you got into the industry.
Well, just like a lot of guys that are my age, the baby boomers, it was the Beatles on Ed Sullivan, and you'll hear that from anybody that's even close to my age. Will always say the same thing. I saw the Beatles on Ed Sullivan, and of course I was a very young boy, and that prompted me to want to do that. Now, my older brother was in a band, and he brought home a drum set. That I guess the drummer in his band bought a new drum set. He brought home a drum set. It was just a kick drum and a snare drum and a cymbal. And I started playing them the next day to Beatle records. It just came natural to me.
Yeah.
And that's how I started. And I started at 10 years old, and then I started my first paying job. I was 11. When the first time I ever got paid to play drums, and I just stayed with it all the way through. As far as later on professionally, then I started of course touring and playing with different bands, and I built a studio in 1986, my first studio in 1986. But I had been touring for a good 20 years before that. But it's just been that, that's about it. I don't know if it picked me or I picked it, but I just picked the music industry, and I've been with it ever since.
Right. No, I definitely can relate. Any major influences besides the Ed Sullivan?
Well, I mean, it was just the whole thing. It was just, it was a very young, innocent time, and it was a fun. I would say it was a fun time. Those early days was fun. It was nothing but fun. There was no politics. There was no slamming each other, and of course there was no social media or anything like that. It was just a bunch of fun. All the lyrics were fun. It was a great fun time, and it was a blast for me. I mean, it was just an absolute blast. I couldn't wait to play my drums. I played every day. I was into sports a lot. I was going to be a professional baseball player, and I got into an accident in high school, and that ended that career. So I just stayed with the music, but it was just a very, very fun time. Everything influenced me. I can't name off a bunch of people. It was just the whole vibe of the music scene at that time. It was fun.
Yeah. I'm sure you saw. Are you from LA? I'm assuming you're probably from the New York
Chicago.
area.
I'm from Chicago.
Oh, Chicago. Okay, cool.
Yeah. But I came out here when I was very young, and my father built an Italian restaurant. And the only other job I've ever had besides music is throwing pizzas in the air for him and his restaurant.
I started making some pizzas during quarantine, and it's fun, you know.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, I love it. Yeah.
Well, so the LA scene, I'm assuming you were there kind of like through a lot of the different seasons then. Maybe the Sunset Strip with the Doors and all of that, and Guns N' Roses about 10 or 15 years later. Any crazy stories you've worked with? Do you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I have a million crazy stories. I mean, I started playing the Whiskey A Go-Go in 1973.
Wow.
That was the first time I played there.
Wow.
And we played there with actually the guy that just passed away a couple of days ago. We played with Jorge Santana with Malo.
Wow.
We played probably 15 shows with Malo back in the day, and they were real, Suavecito had just come out. So I'm sure a lot of listeners or watchers now are going, who the hell are these people? But anyway, it was a long time ago, and I played with a lot of, but I'll tell you what, when I used to play there, just because we're on the subject of the whiskey, when we played, it was 2 shows a night, and there was only 2 bands, and they would clear the place out after the first show, and there was a line all the way up the block. And when we played Joe Cocker, the Beach Boys, I can't think of this. Stevie Wonder.
Yeah.
They would all come in. They would all come in to the whiskey and just sit there and watch and have a beer or a drink, and just hang out. They'd sit in the booth and they would all just come in and walk out and come in. That's how different it was then than it is now.
Right. Did you ever run into Lemmy back in the day?
Lemmy? No, I did not. That was, let me see. I don't think we ever played with them. I would have loved to have met that guy though, because he was the real deal.
Oh, for sure. I'm trying to think of LA bands like Chili Peppers and
Well, again, I played up and down the Strip. We played with the Tubes. We played with later on. We played with Van Halen. We played with Santana. We played with people like Jeffrey Osborne. I can't remember them all, but we played with a lot. I mean, I had a lot of the guys on. I had a talk show for 5 years, and I had a lot of the same guys that I played with on my show. We had Chuck Negron from Three Dog Night, and we were talking about the whole thing, and just that place has got so many stories. But when you go into it now, it's just like a little warehouse, and it's got like 9 bands a night, and it just doesn't have anything near what it used to be.
Right.
But I don't know how much time you got, but I have a ton of stories.
Oh yeah, we've got there's really no time restraint to this. It's as much as you want to talk.
Well, at the time I was going out with this. There was a movie with Steve McQueen did called Papillon, and the girl that played his wife in the movie, that was my girlfriend, and she was a Polynesian woman, beautiful, gorgeous woman. She would come to the shows, and then she was dancing down the street at a Polynesian place, because at the time she was in Playboy magazine and she was real popular. So after the shows at the Whiskey, we would go over to where she was dancing right down the street, and it was a Polynesian restaurant. They do, it wasn't like a strip joint or anything. It was just and then one night we played with the Raspberries, and they came with us over there, and it was just, we would go hang out at the Hollywood Bowl parking lot, and it's just a totally different era than now. Right.
Well, let's talk about your show real quick. I know that you were doing that for about 5 years, and a lot of great information, a lot of great knowledge on the show, the Ask Dino show, correct?
Yes. The Ask Dino show, I started being a guest on this one show called, I think it was something LA or something, I don't know, Entertainment Tonight or something like that, or one of those kind of shows. And I kept being a guest on the show, and then they did a segment with me, and then I just said, "This call it the Ask Dino show," and people could ask me questions. No, the Ask Dino segment, and then I got to be more involved in the show than the actual host. So they said, "Look, you got to do your own show." So I did my own show at Time Warner for like 4 years.
Wow.
In the studio down there. And then I went and did it live with a live audience, and I had a band. I had a phenomenal band, and it was like the Tonight Show. I would come on, I would do like little comedy at the beginning and a monologue, and then I would interview major guests, and then they would perform. I mean, the last show I did was with Larry Dunn and Earth, Wind and Fire, and and his wife Louisa, who was fantastic. And then we did 4 Earth, Wind, and Fire songs with Larry Dunn and a 15-piece band, and it was incredible. But my show was a mentoring show. It was all about mentoring.
Right.
You know, the premise was teaching people what to do, what not to do, and that's how it started. You know, and then it just morphed into what it morphed into. But it was basically teaching the young artists what to do, what not to do, because the young artists these days, they have no place to play. There's no place to play. Not like when I was playing. 6 nights a week we'd play.
Right.
You know,
right.
The young artists these days, well, of course, there's nowhere because of the pandemic. But the young artists, they would have to play one set for 35, 40 minutes with 8 bands, and they would no sound check, no nothing. To get up, get off. That's not the way to cultivate your music. That's not the way, or to learn anything. So I started the show, and it was basically that. It was a mentoring, and then it turned into an entertainment kind of a thing.
For sure. And you've got something new in the works. From what I read, the Paparazzi family.
Right. You know, nowadays, as you know, being a musician and you're doing a show right now, you have to multitask. You can't do one thing. You know, my whole life was one thing, and that was music. Nowadays, you cannot. You have to do more than one thing.
Yep.
So that's why I started doing the Ask Dino show. But then I got into, people started asking me to do acting roles. And I'm not, you know, I mean, I guess I have a natural ability because I've been on stage all my life and, you know, just whatever. I started doing this little comedy skit with the Paparazzi family. So I was Don Dino Paparazzi, and I'd have a family. We were paparazzis, but we were also mafia.
Right.
And then that started, we used to do that at the beginning of the Ask Dino show. That was a little skit. Like the Simpsons did a long time ago on the Tracy Ullman show. They would come on and do a little skit. Well, we did the Paparazzi family. Well, people started digging the Paparazzi family so much, they said, forget about the talk show for now, do the Paparazzi family. So I wrote some shows, and I've got Gordon Michael, who's my cinematographer and editor, and it's just me and him. And then I have my cast, and it's morphed. We've got 6 episodes, and it's over at Bravo right now. But then the pandemic hit, so everything is on, you know. But
I love it. It's hilarious. The reel that you sent me, really good stuff.
Oh, so you like it, huh? That make you laugh?
Yeah, I think it's great.
Yeah, well, you're Italian, right?
Sicilian and Italian, both.
Yeah, well then,
yeah.
I mean, especially Italians will get it, but because, as you know, my character is my father and all my uncles tied together. You know.
Yeah.
That's what my character is. That Don Dino is my father and all my uncles in one. You know.
Right. No, it's great. I love it. Well, let's talk real quick about the Tony Farrell All-Star Band. I know you guys aren't playing right now because of the pandemic, but saw some of that material. Kick-ass band, kick-ass talent. I mean, just I was reading the names that you guys have played with, and it's just incredible. You know, folks that have played with Stevie Wonder, and so many other, like I think Michael Jackson was another one, but like incredible.
Yeah. Well, I started now. This is a weird, strange story, but it's a great story. Tony Farrell is a Vietnam vet. He served 2 tours in Vietnam. He's a Marine Corps Purple Heart winner. He got wounded, and he came to my studio, about 6, 7, 8 years ago, and he wanted to record some music. And he was kind of a very mediocre player, so I started putting some things around him and used some of my players and stuff. And then it morphed and morphed and morphed. And he goes, "Man, this is turning out so good. Can we start doing live shows?" I said, "Of course." So then I built the band around him. Now the band is like, it's an all-star band. It's, you know, we got Greg Wright, who played with Michael Jackson and Mick Fleetwood, and I got Dig Lewis, who was Stevie Wonder and Tina Turner and Chaka Khan, and Jimbo Ross on viola, who's played with everybody from Page and Plant to Alicia Keys, and we got Robin Kermsey, who's a female singer who sang with Joe Walsh and Eric Clapton, and so I've got a 10-piece band, and everybody in the band has done major tours. Now Tony is this guy that's never done anything before, but he's got great songs, and then of course I record them and produce them, and and he's got these great ideas, and we make them in. So we call it the Tony Farrell All-Star Band, and we all play behind him, and we kind of support his military scenario.
Yeah.
And everybody in the band, believe it or not, and you know this because you're a musician, everybody in the band gets along great.
Yeah.
If you can imagine that. 10 people get along great. And that's basically because we've all been through all the craziness and all the BS, and we don't argue about bullshit anymore. We don't argue about crap anymore. We just have a great time. And the band is a bomb. It's just like playing with these guys is like playing with a major act every night, you know?
Yeah.
And I can't wait to play again. I mean, one thing about being a musician is that, you know, I'm no spring chicken, obviously, but I still get the same feeling now that I did when I was 12, 13 years old, 18 years old.
Isn't that incredible?
When I'm playing in the band, we don't think of age anymore. This band's serious, kick butt, and we just have a great time.
You know, I can't really speak to your experience, Dino, because I'm still in my mid-20s, but I feel the same way. Like, I started playing drums at 4, I started taking lessons at around 4, and my early teen years when I was going through all the Van Halen records and Police and The Doors and, you know, Deep Purple, going through all that. It's amazing how still playing music over a decade later, it puts me right back into that place of like early teen years. And it's just amazing how it just de-ages just like that.
Well, what you have to look forward to is that will happen forever.
Wow.
As long as you can play, and as long as you want to play, you can play. Age does not matter when you hit that stage. Besides a few extra aches and pains that you didn't have when you were younger, when you hit that stage, you're right back. You know, even in your 50s and 60s and 70s, you're going to feel the same way you do now at your age. At that age, you're going to feel the same way because that's what we feel, you know?
Wow.
And that's what's great about music is that as long as you're able to play, I mean, look at Carlos and look at any of the guys, you know, Rod Stewart, look at these guys.
Mick Jagger.
You know, look at the Rolling Stones, look at Charlie Watts. You know, Charlie Watts is like a. I mean, I love him. And he's a great drummer, but he looks like a freaking mummy. You know, he looks. You know, I mean, and Keith Richards, who is God knows why he's still even alive. They get up there and they're just having a ball. I mean, and they got more money than God, and they're still touring.
Right.
You know, they just get up there and they have a ball. You know, that's the only thing that's good about this business is the music. The music will never betray us. Right. Everything else will. The business, people, bandmates, even your audience sometimes. But the music will never be. It's ours. It can't F with us. It can't. It'll always be ours. They can't take it away from us. There'll be great nights and there'll be nights that you totally suck. That just happens. That's natural. But the music you'll always have. Okay, so that's why the Stones, who don't need to ever play a note again, they're still touring, and they're in their late 70s.
Well, let's talk about the business real quick. I know that you could probably talk for years with your experience, and I'm not even really sure what question to ask you. I would just start with, you know, what have you learned the most over all the years that you've been in the business? Because I thought I had this thing figured out in my early 20s, and then Get into the mid-20s, it's like, man, totally different animal. Totally different animal.
Well, it's changing all the time. You know, the business is changing all the time.
Yeah.
And so you have to change with it. But I will just say this, and anybody can, you know, some young guys are going to say, shut up, and what do you know? Here's what I'm going to tell you is that when you get older, you get wisdom. Okay? That doesn't mean you're smarter. Smart and wisdom is two different things. Okay? Smart is knowing book smarts. Wisdom is knowing what works and what doesn't work. Wisdom is knowing when to keep your mouth shut and when to talk. Wisdom is knowing when to not let things bother you. Okay? That's what I've learned. Now, I can go on forever about the music. We can talk about rehearsal. We can talk about, you know, because, you know, I was a music director in Las Vegas too. I did big shows where I was the drummer and the music director and the MC. So I could talk all about that, you know. But what I would say is that most bands break up because of bullshit. You know, because being in a band is like a marriage. Or being a solo artist and being with your business people, it's like a marriage. But most bands break up over bullshit. And that's what you have to learn to not let things bother you or let stuff get in the way, because you can have a magical band, and believe me, you can ask the Police, you can ask the Beach Boys, you can ask Blink 182, anybody, they're going to tell you we effed up because we did stupid shit. So the best thing you can do is to not get upset about the bullshit, okay? Because you're going to ruin a great thing, and you're going to be sorry for the rest of your life. Okay, because I firmly believe that in chemistry, if you have something that the chemistry that works, and it's obvious that it works because those are the bands that stay around forever. If you have some of the chemistry working, you can't mess it up. And by fighting over crap and petty bullshit, you're going to mess it up. And that's why this band I'm in now, it's so funny because you got 10 people that get along like, you know, like we're all brothers and sisters and we haven't seen each other and whatever. So I'm just, the basic thing to learn about the business is to not get upset about, and don't think being upset and mad and throwing tantrums, not cool anymore. It's not cool. People look at you like you're an idiot. It was okay in the 80s because everybody was an asshole in the 80s because it was all drug and alcohol fueled stuff.
Right.
Okay. But being a loudmouth bully asshole, nobody likes that. Nobody looks up to that anymore. Being a nice person, that's what people look up to, and that's what people remember, is being nice.
Yeah.
Know your stuff, do your due diligence, do your homework, work on yourself. Like the Michael Jordan thing, the show, you know, they're showing why he was so great. If you watch that, you see how intense he was on winning, okay? Because he worked on himself and the team. If you worry about all the other bullshit, it's going to go away. And people are going to remember you as being an asshole. And you could be the best singer, the best drummer, the best guitar player in the world. But if you're known as an asshole, you're done. And that goes with the public too.
That's great. That's really great. Well, let's talk about your production real quick. Recording, mixing. How did you get into it?
Well, I mean, you know, from playing, I did a lot of, you know, sessions when I was younger. And my first studio I built in 1986, and I didn't know anything about engineering, knew nothing. You know, I mean, I was a drummer. Most drummers don't know nothing about. We just want to bang around and hit and slam and touch and, you know. But I built my first studio, did not know how to engineer. And then I had a mentor come in, a guy named Michael McCarty came in and helped me and showed me the ropes. And then I just loved it. I absolutely love creating music. I still do to this day. That's, you know, I'm sitting in my studio right now. But the recording aspect of it, it's just, I'm natural. It's my calling. Because
Yeah.
I have music on network television almost every day, that I've composed. It's on TV all the time. And my gift is sitting down and I can write something, music, not lyrically. No, I'm not a lyricist. I won't claim to be a lyricist. I can write something musically, just sit down and I can write it. I can orchestrate it, strings, horns, whatever. It just comes to me. That's my gift. Okay. Now, as far as projects, I've got this young girl that I'm producing right now, 18 years old. Her name is Kat. That's C-A-T, Kat. And we've done 5 songs. We're getting ready to do a video. She's kind of like the Billie Eilish, Halsey kind of a thing. But she's a beautiful girl, fantastic voice. And that's, people say to me, who have you worked with? I don't even talk about that anymore. I just say, look me up on Google. Just look it up on Google. I'd rather talk about the stuff you're asking me about, what I'm doing now, what's going on now, what's happening now. Because if I started dropping names and talking about, most of the kids watching won't even know who they are. If I could say, I work with the guys in Survivor. Oh, you mean a TV show? No, the band Survivor. I have clients in here that don't even know who the Beatles are. I mean, They know of them. They go, oh, I've heard of them, or I'll say, play like Clapton. Play. Who's that?
Who's that?
So I have to remember when I'm working with these young kids,
right,
that they don't relate to that. They barely relate to the Eddie Van Halen. They think he's old school. You know what I mean?
But what do you think? What do you think are the trends right now as far as where it's going? Yeah.
Well, that is a $1 million, $60 million, $64 million question.
Yeah.
I don't know. All I know is that when you're a record producer, your personal feelings should not come into play. Your personal choice should not come into play. It's the choice is up to the artist and what they're into. That's what you do. So my personal choices and my personal feelings, I don't usually ever talk about. I don't say who I think is good or who is bad or whatever. I just look at it and say, okay, I'm going to make it the best I can. My job is to make whatever it is the best it can be. Rock music, the rock music of today is country music. Country is the rock of today. They got guys with, big drum sets and wailing guitars and ass-kicking bands, and that's the rock of today. Rock today, unfortunately, is not, it's not nowhere near like it was. It's not even, the bands that are famous are the dinosaur bands, Aerosmith and, those bands are that's in rock that are still real famous. The rock today, it's out there. Believe me, it's out there. The rock is out there. It's just not in any kind of a mainstream right now. It's these young girls. It's it's the pop. It's the Demi Lovato's. Taylor Swift. Things like that.
Right.
And then the internet is a double-edged sword. The internet was great, and then it ruined a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So it's a yin and a yang. The internet was great because you and I could do a record and sell it tomorrow, but then again, so can the guy next to you and the guy down the street, the mailman and the bus driver and everything else. Right. So that gets in the way of you and me who really do it for a living. And all of a sudden you got 80 million people doing the same thing and we get lost. We're lost.
Yeah.
They can't find us. It's harder for them to find us. And then the people that are trying to find stuff get jaded and calloused. And it's like, even me, and I'm not even a record label, I'm like, oh, I just can't listen to it. It's just too much. It's just too much, So the music business is it's a do-it-yourself business now. You can get signed to a label still, sure. But it's basically a do-it-yourself business. And you know that because you do it. I saw your video the other day. I saw that you put that was a great piece of work.
Oh, thank you.
You have to do it yourself. Now you should hire somebody that knows what they're doing. Somebody like me. And that's not bragging. I I've earned my attitude. I've earned it. So if I say I know what I'm talking about, I do. You know, you should always hire somebody that you trust, and always hire somebody that is going to help you. But you have to have your vision. You know, you have to know what you want. And, that's going to help you a lot. As far as the music industry today, is the only thing you have control over is doing the best work you can do.
Yeah.
Okay. You have no control over the business these days. There's no control. But what you do have control over is doing the best work that you can do. And don't worry about what anybody else is doing. You have to focus on what you do. Don't say, oh, so-and-so is this and so-and-so is that. And so do the best work you can do, and that will come through. People don't, believe it or not, people want to see something. People are constantly looking for something new. They don't want to hear another Taylor Swift. They don't want to hear another Demi Lovato. They want to hear somebody new. They want to hear something cool and different. So how are you going to do that if you're copying this one or that one, or maybe this one did that? You just do the best you can do at what you do.
It's good advice. Well, speaking of doing the best you can do from a production standpoint, what is that a Neve back there? Is that a Neve console?
No, this is a Malcolm Toft, an MTA Series 90. I've got Neve preamps.
Yeah, it looked like some sort of. I saw it on the website or one of the pictures that you sent me, and I was like, man, that looks like a Neve, like an old.
Yeah, no, it's a Malcolm Toft design console that actually he made it for me in England.
Wow.
I've had this console 18 years, but I've got Neve 1073 preamps.
Yeah,
too, but,
yeah. 1073s, man.
Malcolm built all the Trident, like the A ranges, the B ranges. And then he started building the MTA, which is Malcolm Toft and Associates. And then I was the first guy on the West Coast to have this console. So I did a bunch of promotion for him and things like that.
U47 into a 1073. Just can't beat it.
No, you can't. Yeah, you can't. I mean, you don't need a lot. That's the problem with a lot of these guys with the computer stuff. You don't need all the computer doodads. You have to have a good mic, a good preamp, a good recording system, and a good ear.
And a damn good performance.
A good compressor. That's all you really need. You don't need 10 million things.
I've got a fun thing I do at the end with gear. I'll save that for the end. Let me jump over to. I heard something really interesting in one of your interviews about the dangers of drugs, and I don't know. I don't know how that was from a few years ago. I don't know if you've changed your opinion on that, but I'd love to hear your take on that and advice regarding that.
Okay,
scene.
are you talking about drugs?
Yeah, it was just an interesting point I heard in one of your interviews.
Well, I mean, just so you know, I in the 80s, I did a lot of cocaine and alcohol. I even sold cocaine in the 80s. So, I was an idiot, and it almost killed me. I got arrested. This is 1984. I've never committed a crime since, and I stopped drinking and drugs in 1990 when my daughter was born. I stopped everything, and I've been a monk ever since. But drugs, recreational drugs. Now, weed is a different thing. I mean, you gotta, as in anything, you gotta have a portion control or whatever. But drugs is nothing but poison. Every time you take a drug, even prescription drugs, it's a poison to your body. Now, that's why they say all these side effects. This can do this and this can do that and this can, so not only are drugs poison to your body, but they put you in very dangerous situations. And I could have been killed a million times. I've got 4 stab wounds and a stab wound here, and I mean, I should have been dead a million times. But drugs is nothing but poison and major embarrassment, because when you're on drugs, you do stupid things and you say stupid things. And I've seen people get dead just by being drunk and on drugs. I've seen them die. You know, by fights, by guns being pulled out, somebody getting hit and falling and smashing their head on the sidewalk and dying, guys getting shot. And then the next day, everybody's sorry. I'm sorry. Well, guess what? The person's dead.
Wow.
So it's a very dangerous thing. Drugs and music, smoking a little weed or something like that, but getting smashed and wiped out is nothing but bad. It's bad. That's all I can tell you. And some people have to learn on their own. And pain and sickness is a great motivator. And if you keep doing it, you'll have a lot of pain and you'll get sick or die.
Right.
Go ahead.
No, I just thought I'd ask you about that because I just thought it was interesting, and I liked your answer on it and your take from that interview.
Well, I mean, there's no experience like experience. And like I said, when you get older, you gain wisdom.
Yeah.
And when we're young, we're fearless and we don't think nothing's going to happen to us. Like my daughter's 29 and I try to tell her all the time and she's finally starting to get it. But, you do things that can get you dead just like that. And I've seen it, And like I say, the next day everybody's sorry and, oh my God, what did I do? And, oh, I'll take it back. Well, too late. So what do? You try to prevent it. And it's not easy at times. And I know there's addiction and I know there's alcoholism and, it's not easy. But I will just say this, that there's no fun. It's not fun. It's nothing but sickness.
Right. You said something earlier. I'm going to go back to what you were talking about. And it had to do with the industry. And I want to get your philosophy on this. What would you say is I'm trying to see how I can phrase this the right way. What would you say is the biggest stumbling block for artists in this day and age? I guess we'll just leave it at that.
The biggest stumbling block is quitting too soon, giving up too soon.
Wow. Sustaining yourself financially is very tough. Right.
Now, I had Chuck Negron on my show from Three Dog Night, and he was probably the most interesting guy I had on my show, and very, he wrote a book called Three Dog Nightmare, and he was, a drug addict, real famous stories with him. And to this day, I mean, this was a couple of years back, but he said you should sustain yourself and spend 2 or 3 hours a day on your music, but the rest of the time you have to sustain yourself.
Right.
In other words, don't just be this broke-ass musician sleeping on a couch thinking that you're going to become famous and rich. That's not happening anymore. Doesn't happen. These people on these TV shows, like The Voice and all that stuff, that are on the couch one day and the next day they're on this TV show. Yeah, that happens. But I mean, for every one of those, there's 10 million that's broke. Okay, so sustain yourself, stay healthy, and then work 2 or 3 hours a day, or even an hour a day on your career. Okay, but if you put everything into music, that's all I've ever wanted, and that's great. But you have to take care of business. You have to take care of business. There's a lot of 80s rock stars that are dead or broke or whatever calling me for $100 sessions that have Grammys and Oscars and Billboard Awards in their house, and they're calling me and asking me for sessions because they have no money. You have to plan. You have to, music is not the end all. It's not, I'm going to be this bohemian and I'm going to, eat dirt and sleep on a couch. You can't do that. Nobody cares. That's not impressive anymore. What's impressive is you taking care of business.
Yeah.
and you doing your music and taking care of business. That's people say, whoa. Look at Taylor Swift, and I'm not want to keep bringing her up, but she's an example right now. Or Miley Cyrus. I'm only talking about them because they're very famous. They work their asses off. They're not just some rich, spoiled kid that's famous. They work their asses off, okay? And they take care of business. I mean, it's not about just going up on the stage and whooping it up and then all of a sudden you're done with the gig and you go party and drink and get laid. That doesn't happen. That's not good. You got to take care of business and sustain yourself. So don't give up. Get balance. Get boundaries. Do your daily stuff, your work, make your money, do your music. Don't be a broke ass bohemian on a couch. It doesn't work anymore.
Entrepreneurship, kind of while we're on this, and reinventing yourself, so to speak, or staying with how the music industry is constantly changing. Any thoughts on entrepreneurship? You obviously are one, whether you want to call yourself one or not. I mean, it's clear that you are, and you have to be in this day and age. But yeah, just some thoughts on that.
You mean like keeping yourself fresh and kind of reinventing, being relevant? Is that what you're saying?
Sure.
Okay. Being relevant is extremely important. You don't want to give up your artisticness to be relevant, but you have to have a degree of it.
Right.
Okay. A guy that did 50s bongo poetry in the 50s who was really famous, you can't do that now. Okay. You have to be somewhat relevant to what's going on right now. Okay. But that doesn't mean you have to copy somebody. That means you've got to be somewhat relevant to what's going on. As a musician, it's one thing. As a producer, like me, you have to stay relevant to the music sounds of today and the way people are playing. Like, I'm producing this 18-year-old artist, and I'm playing drums on all of it. And I'm playing. If you listen to my drumming, I sound like a 20-year-old kid. So I have to play like what's going on with what she's doing.
Right.
Reinventing as a solo artist or a band, you only have to reinvent after you've been famous for a while, and then you got to do something to be fresh again. Just do what you do now and be yourself now and all that stuff. You got a long time before you have to reinvent. As far as a record producer and a songwriter and stuff, yes, you have to stay up what's current, and you have to adjust to it. You have to adjust to what's going on. So you have to do your due diligence. You have to do your homework. You can't just sit back and do nothing. You have to do homework. You have to listen to everything. I saw this thing the other day. I think it was, I watched a special on Keith Richards. The guy's got like 1,000 albums behind him while he was talking. 1,000 albums. He's still doing his homework. He's still listening to these records. He's still listening to what's going on. Okay, so you have to completely upgrade yourself and be and know what's going on. But that doesn't mean you have to give up your own artisticness.
Right.
And to make it myself clear, being an artist is one thing. Being a producer, engineer is another thing. Okay. Yeah. Being an artist, now you're an artist, and then you also produce things. So when you're your artist hat, that's your creative hat. When you're a producer and an engineer, you're taking something and making it great. It could be your stuff or it could be somebody else's stuff. But your artistic hat as an artist is one thing. Like let's say Maroon 5. What's the guy's name? The singer, I can't think of it right now.
I just saw him the other night.
Yeah. Well, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
He doesn't. When he produces an artist, he doesn't go out and produce somebody to sound like him or what he does.
Right.
He's producing them to be them.
Yeah.
Okay. So his artisticness, what he is, stays over here, but then he goes over here and he creates what they're doing and makes it great on what they're doing. Okay. So you have to separate the two. You have to separate your artistic vision to your production, creative, songwriting vision. And you have to multitask. So you can be an artist here, but then, hey, I'm going to go make money over here.
Right.
So then you broaden yourself out. You write a country song, you write a pop tune, and then you come back and you play rock if you're into that. You know what I mean? You have to multitask.
Right.
Okay. So reinventing only comes if you've been, like if everybody's known you for 10, 15 years, and all of a sudden now it's like, well, I got to do something different. Yeah, you could do something different. Prince did it all the time. All kinds of people did it. But you still stay your basic core self, but you change.
Right.
People like that. Go ahead, man.
Oh, no. It's great stuff. I remembered a question that I wanted to ask you earlier, and it's a little bit of a change in pace. But again, you said something earlier. It made me think of the words motivation and inspiration. I always remember when Bob Rock was working with Metallica and some of those other guys back in the 80s and 90s, they interviewed him like, how do you stay up to date and not get burned out? And he said, well, I just try to stay inspired. And that really hit me because it's like, well, at the end of the day, that's really what keeps you moving, is that inspiration. And just some thoughts from you on that.
Well, the older you get, the harder it is to get inspired. I'll tell you that. Not because of anything other than it's just natural. People mistake, I'd say, just the clock, and then we don't jump up and down and go crazy. But when we do see something that we do, it's like, man, that's fantastic. Every time I work with an artist, whether they're a beginner or a Grammy winner, I always learn something. This young girl I'm producing, this 18-year-old girl, she doesn't know anything. But there's little nuggets that she'll say, or something will come up, and I'm going, oh, okay, well, that's cool. That's cool. You can always learn something from anybody.
Right.
And they don't have to be Bob Rock, even though he's fantastic, and I've always loved his work. You can learn something from a guy playing on the street with a hat in front of him collecting dollar tips. You watch that, and you're going to learn something. Or you talk to him when he's done, you're going to learn something. And you have to have the attitude of like, okay, I'm going to take that in, and I'm going to do something with that. Instead of like, what a dumbass, you're out here playing for you're an idiot. Look, I'm way better than you. That doesn't do you any good at all. It just makes you an asshole.
Yeah.
So getting inspired, absolutely. The older you get, it's going to be a little more difficult, but it's always great to feel that. And when we do, it's like, it makes you get up off your ass.
What would you, along the lines of that, what would you say has been the biggest inspiration for you over the years, or when you've really been down, when you've really been in the gutter?
Well, first of all, music always gets me out of being down.
Right.
I've had days in the studio where it's been horrific, business-wise, not musically, but business-wise, because I've owned this place for 32 years. I've had the studio 32 years. But as soon as I come in and put the music on, everything goes away. It's that music is there. Like I say, the music will never betray you.
Right.
Everything goes away. I don't know what else to say about that. I just say that you just have to know you're going to get out of it. Whatever it is that you're going through, you just know that everything's going to come back around. You're going to get back into it again. You're going to get inspired again. You're going to play again, playing with your band, getting on stage. That's they always said it's like the second to sex or whatever. I mean, because you're a musician, when you're up there and everything's gelling right and there's nothing like that.
Nothing like it.
it.
Time stops. It's amazing. Well, you said something in an interview as well that was pretty funny, but it's so true, because I own a studio and I can totally relate to this. It's like eating fire for a living. owning a studio.
Oh, it was like eating fire. Is that what it is?
That you said it somewhere. I found it somewhere on YouTube. It was like 8 or 10 years ago. I thought that was a pretty funny quote, but it's very, very true.
Yeah. Well, owning a studio is I mean, especially nowadays, because we're pretty much a pink elephant.
Right.
I've been fortunate enough to give up a lot of things to keep my business going, but of course, my reputation has helped, and we're doing a lot of videos now, which has also helped, and a lot of TV stuff, and that's helped the business a lot. But owning a studio, you really your dedication to keep that business open, and also not only that, but you deal with I have dealt with the most insane, clinically insane people that you could ever imagine. I mean, I have dealt with insane, nut crazy, violent. I've had guys go out of my office and start punching their windows in their car and smashing stuff. I've had fights in the studio. I've had, just a lot of crazy people that you have to be nuts to own a studio. I mean,
right.
I wouldn't change it for anything, but it's a very tough business to deal with clients. Right. Unfortunately, we have to deal with clients. The music is always great, but the dealing with the clients, there's a lot. Bohemians are freaking nuts. They're nuts.
Yeah.
And
people,
they live on emotion.
And you
that's
said
why
that in another interview.
Music.
The networking, the relationships, and people, that's what really is the concrete and the glue of this industry.
Yes. Yes. And I had to learn that the hard way, because do you ever see that movie Whiplash, where the guy was screaming at the drummer all the time? It was just a couple of years ago. The guy won the Academy Award for that. He was screaming at the drummer, and he was like the music director. I was kind of like that guy for a while. I was over the top, and I lost a lot of friends, and clients, because I was so intense. And then nowadays I just sit back, and even though somebody could be saying something and I know exactly what's going to come out of their mouth, and I know exactly what they're going to say, and I've heard it 50 bajillion times, I let them keep going. I don't interrupt them anymore. I know they have to get it out, and I know I have to listen to it, and I listen to it instead of saying, wait, I already know that. I don't do that anymore. I let them talk. I let them get it out. And I've stayed friends with a lot more people, because you keep having to tell yourself, like if I went up to a jet fighter pilot, I'm going, man, I sat in the cockpit and I did this and I did that, and I turned around, he's looking at me going, oh my God, I don't want to listen to this. That's what it's kind of like, But if you let them talk about it and let them get it out, and know that this is the first time this person's done it, even though you've done it a billion times, they're really into it. So you have to let that go. You have to let that, and you keep that relationship. I learned this the hard way. Trust me.
For sure. Let's talk about acting real quick, and then we'll kind of wrap up here. You've worked in various films. You have definitely a marriage with the TV side of things and film side of things. Anything you want to talk about specifically? Floor's open, as far as acting and that whole industry.
Okay. Well, I was gonna when I first started the acting stuff, I was gonna take lessons, and I was gonna go out and pound the pavement and I'm not doing that. I'm working on my show, because my character and Dino, of course, I created it, and I can do it because that's what I created, so it's very easy for me.
Right.
I love it. I'm not driven by it like a lot of actors are. I think the only thing tougher than the music business is the acting business. That business is murder. That business is murder.
Yeah.
But I like doing it. I personally like being on the production side of something, because every time I'm in an acting thing, which I haven't been in a whole lot of it, but I've done some, and I kind of feel a little weird because they treat you differently. They treat you like you're a real fragile. You know, they don't talk to you. They don't. They leave them alone. They, you know, don't upset them. And I'm talking about, hey man, how you doing? That's cool. What's that? What kind of camera is that? You know, it's like no.
Right.
You got to be. They don't want. They're not supposed to talk to you. You know, and I'm like, well, that's weird. You know, I enjoy acting. I love doing the paparazzi show. That's what I really want to do. I will do stuff if somebody asks me to do it. I will do it, but I'm not going to go out and pound the pavement because I'm telling you, these people, there's a lot of people that you've seen that are famous faces, and they're not doing well financially. You think that they're like some rich actor. A lot of these people aren't doing well, you know, because there's just not that much work.
Right.
You know, so I love the acting. There's a movie I did called Guitar Man. It's a true story. It's about a guy that taught guitar in San Quentin prison for 3 years, and it's a great story. It's a great movie. It's won 14 awards already for the circuit, the film festival circuit. And it's just about ready to get a theater release, and then the pandemic hit. So, but it's that movie's really good. I don't have a big part in it, but the guy that's the movie's about, Buzzy, he was on my talk show. That's how I got the part, and that's how I had Buzzy, the actual guy that the movie's about. He was on my talk show. And then I did some stuff for Hector Luis Bustamante, who's a great actor. He's my mentor. He's my acting mentor.
Yeah.
And I did his series called Caribe Road, and then a movie called Sunshine. I actually played a drummer and a father of a girl, that's what I am. I got a daughter and I'm a drummer, so that was no problem. I love acting. I'll do it, but it's not my it's not my first on my list, but my show is. That's the Paparazzi Family. That's first on my list. That's the top of my list right now.
I was actually a professional actor before musician, so it's always fun to talk shop in that regard with somebody who's done both, because it like you said, they're two of the most difficult industries in the world, and it's like, you know, navigating both of them, it's definitely interesting.
Yeah, people don't understand how hard these jobs are. People think it's all red carpet and talk shows and live performances. That's just the icing on the cake. That's the fun part. They don't understand any of what goes on behind the scenes, or the rehearsals, or the touring, or the traveling, or the fighting, or the misunderstandings, or the FUs, and I'm going to kick your ass, and I'm going to kill you. You know, they don't understand none of that stuff. They just see all this stuff, you know. And acting and being in the music industry for a living now, I'm not talking about just having fun with it or having a hobby. For a living, it's extremely tough business.
Best and worst gig experiences for you, if you had one of each.
Best and worst?
Yeah.
Oh God.
You don't have to use any names if you don't want to.
No. I mean, I've been in fights right on stage. I mean, literally. But the best. Oh boy, the best was probably playing at Indianapolis Speedway in Indiana.
Wow.
That was freaking amazing. And then they had, after we played, they had the Formula One race right after the concert, and that was and then of course playing with my with the All-Star band that I'm in now. I love playing with these guys, and the band's smoking, so I love that. I there's a million things,
right,
women and whatever. The worst, playing when I'm sick. That's the worst.
Right.
Yeah, playing with 103 temperature. Where the room is like waving, like everything's like this, and you're playing, and you're.
Yeah, hell no.
I played with a broken arm. I had a cast on, and I shoved the stick in here, and I had a cast from here to here, and I shoved my stick in there, and I played like that.
Oh my God.
And then, just I almost got shot and killed by a club owner. I was on the road somewhere, and I'm always the leader of my band, so I was getting paid, and the guy came in and pulled out a gun, and fortunately, my keyboard player, who happened was my best friend for like 50 years, he just passed away last year. He came with the door right at the right time. He knocked on the door, and I probably would have been killed.
Wow.
Let me see. I've been, walked up by two big gigantic dudes when I was trying to get paid, and I got slugged in the side of the head, knocked out. Things like that. I mean, I've been doing this for a long time, man. There's probably more stories that I'm forgetting about, but a lot of times I could have been dead a lot of times, especially when the cocaine days. Cocaine days were the worst. But as far as musically, yeah, there's been a lot of horrible nights. There's been nights where it's just like, oh, I'm never going to play again. That's it. I'm out of here. But then there's the great nights where it's like, oh my God, this is like the best.
What about a studio best and worst as far as
okay? The best. I did there's so many great things. I just did a video called L.A. I produced a song. Actually, I co-wrote the song, and it just came out. It's called L.A. the video, and it's a song about Los Angeles. And we shot the video. We shot all over L.A. And I used my band, and that was a blast. A guy named Jim Correo. It was his idea, and he wrote the lyrics and the melody. He's from Chicago too, but he loves LA, so we did that, and that was a blast. Worst thing in the studio was I produced an album for a hard rock album for Mark Bowles and Scott Warren from Dio's band, and another guitar player who I won't name. Great album, just great hard rock. That wasn't metal; it was hard rock. Mm-hmm. And we did the album, and the guitar player brought some manager over here, and the manager was trying to play the big shot, and he decided that somebody else should mix the record, and that's the one and only time that's ever happened.
Wow.
With me.
Wow.
And they took the record and mixed it somewhere else, and the record took a dump. It was horrible. Horrible. And that was probably the worst thing that ever happened to me.
Yeah.
That was because I worked my ass off on this thing. I arranged all the music.
Yeah.
Played all the drums. I did. Of course, I engineered it, and it was a great record. But somebody else mixed it, and it took a big dump. So that was pretty bad.
I'll ask you this real quick: the word risk, as far as in this industry, risk taking. Thoughts on that? Any advice? Any wisdom on how risk analysis?
Well, you always got to take a risk. I mean, everything's a risk.
Right.
Putting your music out, I would say don't put anything out unless it's great. In other words, Don't put something out and say, well, we didn't have enough money to mix it right, and we didn't have enough money to master it, and don't ever, because music does not come with a set of excuses or a set of instructions.
Andrew Sheps he says that all the time. I've heard in interviews, is like, the two speakers, that's it. Once it's out of the speakers, there's no room for anything, any excuses, no anything.
He's right. There's no, people say, well, we didn't have enough, but I want to get it out there. Don't put it out until it's great. Even if you have to wait a month, 6 months, or a year, don't put it out until it's great, because nobody knows any of this stuff. They know two things. Is it great or does it suck? There's no in between.
Right.
No one's going to buy a record that says, it's okay. No one's going to buy that.
Right.
It's either great or does it suck? And if it's not great, it's like the old thing. If you're not first, you're last. If it's not great, and I'm not saying everything you're going to put out, everyone's going to love. I'm just saying within yourself, you know it has to be done and great. Don't go, well, we didn't get the background singer and we didn't get the drummer we wanted. And don't put it out. Don't put it out. Because like your friend said, you can't draw it back in and then put it out again. No, once it's out, it's out.
Yeah.
So, you're going to take risk in anything. And it's funny because if somebody gets a Grammy on their first record, which they had a great time doing, the second record, everybody's paranoid. Everyone's like, oh, we got to make it. We got to this, we got to watch that. Everybody's paranoid.
Wow.
Instead of going in and just doing it, they're like, oh,
I would think it would be much easier after the Grammy.
No. I mean, there's some things that are easier, yeah, but the paranoia factor comes in because you're worried that they're not going to accept it like they did the first one. And the sophomore record is the hardest one. The first one is not. That's the sophomore record.
Wow.
Because everybody likes to dump on the second record. If they had a great record, they like to dump on it. That's why that sophomore effort has always been the most difficult.
Wow.
And everybody gets paranoid, and everybody's got the Grammy fever. It's not even about selling the records or having it's like, oh, are we going to get another Grammy? Are we going to get nominated? It's like yeah, it's
yeah.
There's a lot more paranoia on the second record.
I guess I could see that from that Yeah, I understand that from that standpoint. Yeah. Well, this has been awesome. I've got a thing that I like to do at the end. I call it the shootout section, and it's really fun with fellow producers and engineers and mixers. I've just got about 10 or 15 words that are industry related, and I'll say the word, and you just kind of say the first thing that comes to mind, whether it's a favorite piece of gear or maybe a philosophy on something.
Okay.
But it's always industry related to the guest. So I've got some words for you, and there's no right or wrong answers.
Okay.
Kick drum.
Hit it hard.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Snare.
Get your wrist snap. Get the wrist snap into it. Don't just hit it like this. Snap your wrist. You don't got to come up like this. Snap into it.
The whip. The molar, the wrist.
The whip, yeah. You got to whip it. It's all about the snap. That's where you get that. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, no. I could talk about drums all day.
Yeah.
Toms.
Toms? Tom-toms?
Yeah.
A good drum head and tune it properly, and hit them distinctly. Don't float over them. Hit them distinctly.
Right. Overheads.
Well, get some good ones. Are you talking about the microphones?
Yeah.
Yeah, get some good ones, and then don't get them too close to the cymbals because you don't want to get any kind of phasing going on.
Right.
Don't over EQ them. Don't get them too close to the cymbals.
Right. Vocal mic.
Well, I've had $10,000 tube mics, and the mic I got now is the TLM 149. It's the best mic. I've had everything. 87s. Neumann is the best mic for me. I just say this.
I agree.
Is the best.
I agree.
Yeah.
Console, which we kind of talked about earlier, but
yeah, console. I've always loved the Neve sound because it's big and fat and thick and clean. I like my MTA because that's as close for the money that I had to buy one.
Yeah.
That I could get. And then I have the Neve 1073s, the preamps. Of course, then there's the big SSLs, and then there's all these new digital consoles, which my brother works at CBS Television, and he's a sound engineer. He's been there for 25 years. He's got all these fantastic digital consoles that Total Recall. I don't have time for that,
Right.
But I like a good, clean fat sound. I'm a rock guy, I'm a rock dude. I always love that fat, punchy Neve sound.
You and I both. You and I both. Compression. Or compressor. Whatever.
Yeah, the Avalons are great. The Neve, oh God, there's so many good ones. A tube compressor is always really good.
LA2A, yeah.
My plugins, I got all the Neve plugins for my compressors, and just don't over compress. You really watch it. Really watch your compression.
This is parallel or something, You want to smash the living hell out of it. EQ.
Well, again, I got the Neve. EQ, do not over EQ. Matter of fact, the better you get as an engineer, the less you turn the knobs.
100%.
Do not turn. Pardon me?
I totally agree with you.
Yeah. You don't want to. The more you turn the knobs, the more problems you're going to have on your mixing. Number one, and then you have to keep everything relevant. And EQing is taking out ugly sounds. It's not adding. You don't try to add. You just take out ugly sounds.
Subtractive. Yeah.
And then you never want to put too much high on or high mid, but you want to make it so it's clean. Make it as clean as possible, but do not over EQ.
Right. Delay.
Still didn't hear it.
Delay, like the effect.
Oh, delay. Okay, delay. Well, delay. I don't use that much delay anymore. I mean, in the '80s we used 5 effects on each thing. But I don't use that much delay. I use it very sparingly, and bring it in and out. I always automate. Right. I don't put just one delay on. I automate it.
Ride the fader. Yeah.
Yeah, bring it in, bring it out. I use it a lot more sparingly these days. People like to feel stuff in their face. And of course, the more effects you put on, the farther away the source is.
Right.
But I don't use it that much. If it calls for it, guitar solo or, a certain part of a vocal or a special effect or whatever, but do not over delay things. It's just not in today's music.
Do you have any favorites that you still go to as far as like pieces of rack gear or anything?
The actual delay unit itself, or just time delay time?
Yeah. I mean, any favorites that you find yourself going to over and over again?
Well, I use all the URL plugins.
Yeah.
And they're best that I've had, and I just use them. I mean, I don't need to go out and get 10 different items these days to put. If it works good, I use it.
Right.
Okay. All these guys that I've got this and I've got that and I've got this, and I put on a record and I say, can you tell me which one is which delay is which? They can't tell you.
Right.
It's
right.
If it's working and it's good. People think that making a record is doodads. It's not. It's performance and vibe.
Yes.
That's everything. It's doodads. Doodads do nothing but make it sterile and make you sound like everybody else. It's the vibe that's different, And if you put too much doodads on, then you're not doing your job.
Man, that is the word. That is the word, vibe. And somebody always, I can't remember who it was. I think they were on the show as well a few weeks ago. We were talking about vibe, and it's like you can't replace vibe. There is nothing you can do if it's not there and it's not smashing. You got to go back.
Vibe. See, we do things when we make records. There's certain things that we do to keep people's attention. People don't understand that certain things come into play to keep people's attention, because a song is a 4-minute movie, Right. And if you can't make it interesting, they're going to turn it off, And the most the most important thing is the performance. It's not about the sound so much; it's the performance. I mean, look at some of these old records that sound terrible.
Oh yeah.
But people still listen to them because the vibe that's on there, you can't beat it.
Great
And
point.
then you have these phenomenal sounding recordings of this orchestra and that orchestra and Dream Theater and all. It's like, no, I want to feel it. I mean, look at Bob Dylan. The guy could barely sing a note, but people still listen to that because of that vibe.
Right.
I know I sound like a dinosaur when I bring up Bob Dylan, but
we just talked about Bob Dylan on the previous episode a couple of days ago, and same thing. The other guest and I were like, man, we just can't stand his voice, but damn, what a poet, what a vibe, and that's it. I mean, that it resonated with people.
Yeah, I mean, vibe is everything. I mean, Joe Cocker look at him. I mean, he was like a vibe on 11 all the time. What
a vocal. What a vocal take whether it was live at Woodstock, whether it was on the record. It's like, God, what a vocal.
Yeah, I got a friend that I played with Joe for, his name is Gene Black. He played with Joe Cocker forever. And, when he died, he was like completely devastated because he goes, I know I'll never play with anybody even close to that.
Right.
And, that's what I'm talking about. The Beatles were all vibe. I mean, they were just, their vibe was fun and then psychedelic and, but I mean, vibe is everything. Music is supposed to make you feel happy or sad, or all these emotions.
Right.
It's the reason those emotions are brought out is because of the vibe that the entertainer is giving you,
Yeah.
And that's what's important. It's not about the doodads and the delays and the this and the that. Yeah, those things are come into play. But if you got some, there's no amount of doodads going to make somebody great if they don't have a vibe.
Right. Well, any favorite reverbs that you've used over the years that you still use or?
Well, I had all the. Oh God.
Lexicon, TC.
Lexicon, yeah, I had all the Lexicons, the 480Ls and the LXP15s, and I had all that stuff. I have it all inside the box now, but I have all the top,
Right.
I have the best plugins you can buy, but Lexicon was always the best for me. Yamaha was great too, but Lexicons was always the best for me.
Man, those Lexicons are like, God. Incredible.
And they're expensive as hell. They were expensive as hell.
Oh, and I got a hard rack, a 19-inch, U-rack. I got a hardware piece just because I was like, why not? It was sitting there empty. An empty U-rack is always a dangerous thing in the studio because you want to fill it immediately. Incredible. And the plugins are amazing as well. Like I use them all the time, but sometimes you just want to print it and be done with it. And man, just great stuff.
Yeah. No, you got to have good equipment. If you have good equipment, you got to make sure if you're going to be someone that records, you got to have good equipment for sure. Absolutely, for sure. Yeah.
What about guitars for you? Any go-to cabinets, amps, anything like that you really just favorites?
Well, I endorsed Samick, which was the Greg Bennett line, and so I always had to say those, but I'm not with them anymore. But
I actually have.
Of course,
one.
Huh?
I actually have a Samick.
Yeah, they were great guitars. Of course, the Strat. I like the Paul Reed Smith.
Yeah.
Of course, Les Paul. The Les Paul Jr. I mean, the standard stuff as far as basses are concerned. I've always loved just the regular P bass. There's Yamahas are nice. There's so many special guitars that my guys bring in, but the old standard cleanest, powerful, fat sound is the Fender, the Gibson, even some old Gretsch.
Right.
But you know, I've always been able to make anything sound good. So if you bring it to me, I'm going to make it sound good. But some things sound better quicker, and those guitars always do.
Right. What about piano for you?
Pianos? Well, I had a grand piano for a long time, but I don't have it now. But I just got a Hammond B3 and a Leslie in the studio.
Nice.
But piano, the Yamaha, I mean, if you're talking about a grand piano, I've used a lot. I did the David Benoit's record a while back. I've had Johnny Hammond Smith in here. I've had some of the heavyweight piano players. But I'm not a real stickler on it. If it sounds good, it sounds good.
Yeah. Yeah. L.A. Los Angeles.
Okay, well, I live by the beach, so I probably everywhere I've toured or whatever, I've always come back here to the South Redondo Beach.
Right.
And it's just I don't know. As far as musically though, LA is not anything near what it used to be. Not even close. There's way too much supply and not enough demand. Way too much supply and not enough demand.
Wow.
It's the scene is nothing like it. I mean, it's nothing like it was. I don't go out that much anymore. I go out and see my clients play, or I go out and play in my band, but I don't go out to this club or that club, because most of the time it's a bunch of crap. And it's not so much the band's fault, because they get thrown up on the stage. There's no sound check. They get 30 minutes. They're on, they're off. I mean, big concerts. I can't wait to see a concert in the new stadium, the Rams new stadium. I can't wait to see a concert there.
Right.
There's a lot of great stuff here still, but as far as like the way it used to be, not even close.
Yeah. Yeah. Chicago,
way better than it used to be. I was there a little while ago, and it's way cleaner. It's there's a lot of dangerous parts of Chicago still, but it's a beautiful place, and it's only good to be there 2 or 3 months a year. Other than that, it's way too cold or way too hot.
Right. Last one. Pizza. My father's pizza was the best pizza I ever made. I have not been. Little Italy in New York, I got some good stuff. Nowhere else. I've never been to Italy, unfortunately. Me neither.
Weird, but I've never been there. Have you been there?
Not yet.
No. Yeah, I want to go there.
Yeah.
My father's pizza was the best pizza I ever made. I ever ate, and I'm still searching.
Yeah. Well, your dad is a great answer. That's awesome.
Yeah, no, it was the best pizza. He had the restaurant 22 years, and it was literally the best. Anybody that used to go there still says the same thing. There's no pizza like his pizza. Now,
he had the restaurant in L.A.?
Redondo Beach. It's South Redondo in the Riviera Village.
Wow.
Yeah, he built it in 1956. Had it all the way up till 1978.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yep.
Well, I got one more question for you. I ask everybody this at the end.
Okay.
And it's, if you could go back in time to your 15-year-old self, knowing what you know now, what would you tell him?
I ask that question to my guests sometimes too. I would probably, being honest, I would tell myself to go to college, and I would tell myself to do music as a hobby, and do something that would sustain me better financially. But but still played and still performed, and then see what happens. But I would have never just taken the music and that's it only route. I wouldn't have done that. I would have done something else financially, because it's like, again, it's a very tough life to do that all by itself to make, and that's all I've ever done. That's all I've ever done.
Right.
Was the entertainment business, and it's not easy. At any era, 70s and the 80s, we made a lot more money, yeah. But at any era, music industry, entertainment industry is a tough way to make a living. It's great to do for fun. It's great to have a great time, perform, make music, write songs, record, but sustain yourself in a good paying job while you're doing that. And if something happens musically, then great. That's what I would have changed.
Well, it's funny because I graduated with my business degree last year, and I was always questioning, well, especially now, it's like, oh, well, maybe I should have spent more time doing such and such instead of doing online courses while I was recording, while I was playing and whatever. Because it always felt like it was very, very overwhelming doing both, being the full-time student and working the acting and the music career. But I'm glad I did it. Luckily, I had a lot of folks like yourself tell me, look, you got to have something under your belt. And, who knows, right? Who knows at the end of the day?
Yeah. Music is a fun thing, but if you depend upon it to eat and pay your rent, it's not fun.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you can't be rich and never be famous, but a huge amount of the proportion of artists are struggling. So, have a side gig, do something else, make money, do something else, and then you'll have a much better time, much more fun, and you'll be a lot healthier.
That's great advice. It's good to know that there's options, for sure. Well, I think that's gonna do it. I mean, if you have any last words, if you have anything you want to push or plug that you're working on right now.
Well, I just say watch out for the paparazzi family. That's going to be hitting the air pretty soon. And if you ever see it, make sure you watch it. I guarantee you'll laugh your ass off. And then this new artist, Cat, that's coming out. And then watch the LA video. It's on YouTube. You can see it now. It's a great video. It's all about Los Angeles, and it's great song. Let me see what else. If you ever need somebody to record with in LA, give me a call. Give me a shout. You can just Google my name and find me real easy.
Awesome. And you could send me an email. I'll put all of your links in the description box on YouTube, and then this will be out iTunes, Spotify, iHeart, all those. So that information will be there as well.
When you gonna put it out?
What is it now? It's like May 20th or something. Probably like first week of June.
Great. Yeah, just keep me posted, man. I'll put it everywhere.
Cool.
I'll advertise the hell out of it.
Well, Dino, I really appreciate you taking the time to come on.
No problem, man. Had a good time. It was a lot of fun, and good luck. Where are you, by the way?
I'm in North Carolina right now.
Oh, you're in North Carolina.
Yeah.
Wow. For some reason, I would have not have guessed that. I was guessing more on the East Coast, actually. Unless that is on the East Coast.
It is. Yeah. It's probably it's like 600 miles north of New York City. Excuse me, south of New York City.
That's right. Yeah. Wow. And what's the weather like there right now?
Unseasonably rainy and damp, because usually now it's like humid and disgusting, like in the high 80s, low 90s once you get into June, and then it starts getting into high 90s and hundreds in the summer. But it's been, like I said, unseasonably cold and damp, which is weird.
Wow. All right, well, bro, stay dry and keep in touch. Let me know what's going on, okay?
For sure. You guys have been watching and listening to the Jason Damico Show. And we'll see you guys on the next episode. Thanks. Peace.